Hello and good day, students. This is second to the last lecture, that is lecture 5 of 6, module 5 or writing skills. The course is GSJ 111/211 communication in English. I am Dr. Ali Yakub Yusuf. Stay tuned. Now, today's lecture will be on report writing. We are going to discuss report writing today, as well as its different types. We are going to discuss all the features of report writing in this module. Here we begin with defining what a report is. According to Uber, 1998, a report is a document providing an account of events witnessed, work carried out, or investigation conducted, together with conclusion and the offer recommendation arrived at as a result of the investigation. A report is usually carried out when a particular event is witnessed, or a particular work is carried out, or a particular investigation is conducted. When such happens, usually somebody is asked to compile a report about what happened, and the report contains all the procedure that is followed to collect data, to analyze it, to arrive at some findings and conclusions, sometimes together with recommendations, so as to inform policy decisions. In other words, a report is a detailed account of events that someone has thoroughly observed, heard, done, or investigated, and presented as an official document. Yes, a report is usually an official document, and it gives a detailed account of an event that someone has observed, had investigated, had done, or had heard about, and it is written and presented as an official document. Now, if for example you are assigned maybe to go to a particular Ministry of Education and observe some activities, or you are assigned to go to some schools in a particular local government and observe how things are going on in primary schools, how teaching of a particular subject is going on among teachers in some particular schools in the local government. When you are done with investigating, you may be asked to compile a report, to write a report about what you have observed, what you have seen, what you have witnessed. Sometimes you may need to interview the teachers, sometimes you may need to just observe what is going on, sometimes you may interview the head teachers, sometimes you may even interview the students to learn more about what is happening, how teaching and learning of that subject is going on. Then later you compile a report and submit it as an official document. Sometimes a report is usually conducted to guide organizations in policy formulation and decision making. It is usually written on the basis of some stated objectives and of a particular category of audience. Yes, whenever you are given a mandate to write a report, you are given some terms of reference, some objectives that you are to pursue, some terms of reference that are to guide you in conducting the report. And that report is usually used to inform policy decisions, formulations, and other decision making, especially by the government or other private organizations. A person who is tasked with writing a report is usually given instructions and guidelines on how to go about writing the report. This may include a clearly structured format consisting of sections, headings, and subheadings, so that the location of information can be easily followed. Sometimes when you are asked to write a report, some organizations and the government agencies have their own particular instructions. Sometimes they have their own guidelines on how to go about writing the report. There are instances in which organizations have their own format, they have their own template that contains sections, subsections, headings, subheadings. All you have to do is to fill in each subheading, each heading, each section, each subsection with the information that you have found out. This makes it easier for location of information in the report. Now, qualities of a good report. Here we have some qualities that a good report is expected to have. Number one, a good report must be clear, accurate, and unambiguous. It has to be clear with no ambiguity. It has to be accurate. A good report must be well structured and highly organized. It should have sections and subsections. Yes, the structure is really important. You should have sections and subsections, headings and subheadings, so that location of information can be easy. A good report must be informative. Yes, it should be informative enough so that nothing is left unattended to. Nothing is left unexplained. A good report must have clearly defined objectives and a scope. Yes, there should be objectives clearly spelled out, and a scope that is covered by the report should also be highlighted. A good report must consider the needs of potential readers. Yes, that is also a very important quality of a report, that the needs and desire and aspirations of potential readers of the report should be taken into consideration when comparing the report. Now, here we have the language of reporting. The language of reporting is strictly formal. Therefore, you are not expected to use any informality or informal usages when you are writing a report, especially when it is a formal report. So the following usages should be avoided in report writing and other formal discourses. Whenever you are writing a report, or when you are writing anything in a formal context or for a formal purpose, avoid the following language usages. Number one, contraction. This includes isn't for is not, can't for cannot, don't for do not, I am for I am, I've for I have, you are for you are, etc. All these contracted forms are not allowed to be used in a formal report. Instead, use the full forms of those words. Can't should be cannot in a full form. Don't should be do not. Isn't should be is not. I'd should be I would, and so on and so forth. I should be I have. Write everything in full. Don't use contractions when you are writing a report. Number two, cliches. Cliches are overused expressions. They are overused phrases that have lost their meaning and effect. They are called stale expressions. They have become stale, they have become overused, they have lost their efficacy. They no longer give meaning and effect that they used to give in the past because of overuse over time. Expressions such as in a nutshell. It is against this background that at the end of the day, the fact of the matter, at this point in time, in the final analysis, etc. You are advised to limit the number of times you use cliches. Sometimes you may find yourself in a situation whereby you only have the option of using cliches, but don't make that frequent in your piece of writing. Don't make it frequent in your report. As much as possible, avoid cliches except where otherwise necessary. Then number three, we have idioms. Idioms are phrases. They are expressions whose meaning is figurative or metaphorical, and sometimes they are also cliches in a way. So avoid using idioms because the meaning of idiom is usually metaphorical. You cannot determine the meaning of an idiom from the constituent words. You cannot look at the meaning of the individual words in the idiom to determine their meaning. Therefore, you are advised to avoid as much as possible using idioms in your report writing. Instead, use formal expressions because idioms are informal. Look at examples of idioms here. Put all your eggs in one basket. A pain in the butt. Bury the hatchet. Call a spade. Flog a dead horse. Icing on the cake, and so on. Now here we have number 4, archaisms. Archaisms or archaic expressions. These are expressions or phrases that are considered old-fashioned or obsolete. They are out of date. They are expressions that are no longer used in the contemporary English usage. They are obsolete, they are old-fashioned, they are outdated, they are archaic. No one uses them anymore nowadays, even though they can still be found in religious scriptures. But in the contemporary English usage, in the modern English usage, these expressions have gone out of use. For example, thee, thy, thou, me, ain't, doth, hath, dropped, dost. These used to be expressions that are current, especially in the old English hundreds of years ago. But nowadays, these expressions are regarded as archaic. Therefore, avoid using them in the contemporary English writing. Avoid using them in your report. Try as much as possible to find their modern equivalent when you come across them. Then the next one is slang. Slang is an expression which is considered highly informal and therefore not used in formal writing. Yes, when we talk about slang, we are talking about expressions that are highly informal, and they are mostly used among friends. They are mostly used to catch cruise in court among friends. So they are not used in anything formal. Avoid using them in your report. For example, affluential. This is a blend of affluent and influential. Affluential, affluent and influential. Frenemy, friend and enemy. Unreal, dis, blind, cheers, chopped, gobsmacked, gutted, haggle, wonky, etc. These are all slang expressions that are avoided in a formal writing. Then the next one is uncommon abbreviations. Sometimes there are abbreviations that are commonly used, that are known by almost every language user. Therefore, it is not an offense if you use such abbreviations in your writing. However, some abbreviations are uncommon. If you use abbreviations such as GOBT for government, SCH for school, or UNICEF, BUK, Carota, NEPA, JAM, those are abbreviations and acronyms that are known by everyone in the Nigerian context. But there are abbreviations, especially the social media lingo. You are advised to avoid them as much as possible because they are not common. Don't use something like before, B and number 4, or BRB to mean be right back. Those social media abbreviations, as much as possible, avoid them in your. On this slide, we have types of report. Based on their nature, formality, purpose, and functions, report can be classified either as formal or informal. Generally speaking, reports can be regarded as routine reports, eyewitness report, investigative report, progress report, research project reports, police reports, and so on. But when we gather all these together, we can classify reports into two types based on their nature, their formality, their purpose, and their functions. These two main classifications are formal and informal reports. Now, let's say a little about the informal report. An informal report is a report that does not follow the rules and guidelines directed by an organization. It can be written to send the information to only one person or for a small number of individuals. Such reports are usually shared among co-workers within an organization in form of a memorandum. Just when you write a report which doesn't follow any particular specific or rigid guidelines given by an organization, that report is an informal report because it doesn't follow specific, rigid, strict guidelines directed by an organization. Sometimes it is written by one person and sent to one person, or written by one person and sent to a small number of readers or individuals. These reports are usually shared among co-workers within an organization. It is not meant for the consumption of people outside the organization. So that report is usually an informal type of report, and it can be written in form of a memo. Now we have the formal report in this on this slide. This is otherwise known as official report. It is meant for official purposes. It is written to provide information, analyze issues, and make recommendations on how to solve a problem or make a decision. Examples of formal reports include research report, research project report, policy report, evaluation report, and so on. So this is the main type of report. This is the official serious type of report that is meant for official purposes. It is usually compiled and submitted or presented formally to officials because it is going to be used to solve a particular problem or make a particular decision, especially as it regards to policy formulation. So it provides adequate information, it analyzes issues, and sometimes even make recommendations on how to go about solving a problem or making a decision. So, what is the structure of this type of report, which is formal? The structure of the report depends upon one's departmental or organizational requirement. However, the format explained below is largely used in writing formal reports. The structure of a formal report depends on the organization. It depends on the department. It depends on the agency that is sponsoring, writing, or conducting of the report. Sometimes an organization or an agency has its own template that it uses when writing a report. Therefore, the structure must follow the format or the template used by the organization. Sometimes it is at the discretion of the report writer to use a format that he or she deems fit. However, what we are going to discuss now is the usual format that most people use when writing reports. Number one, you have the title page. Title page is the first information that appears in any formal report. It contains the title of the report, the name of the reporter, and the date in which the report is compiled and submitted. It contains the title page contains the title. It shows the title of the report. Report on so and so. Report on, for example, report on the Boko Haram insurgency in Yobe and Maiduguri. Compiled by, then you have the name of the reporter, then the date in which the report is compiled and submitted. This comes as the cover of the whole report. Then secondly, number two, you have the table of contents. This should contain all the chapters or headings together with their page numbers. This allows the reader to easily locate all parts of the report. Just like you have table of contents in any standard textbooks, here you also have table of contents in a report. It includes or it shows the chapters, the headings, the sections, and all the subsections in the report alongside their page numbers, so that when you want to locate some part of the report, you can easily go through the table of content, see the page number of the section that you want to look at, then you can easily navigate through the document without any difficulty. So there should be a table of content which contains the chapters, the headings, the sections, alongside their page numbers. Then the third item, number 3, is the executive summary. It gives this gives a very brief explanation on the contents of the report. It gives a summary of the purpose of the report, the method of investigation, the major findings, conclusion, and recommendations, if any. The executive summary is really important when it comes to report writing because it gives the abstract, it gives a brief version, an abridged version of the whole report, because sometimes not all people have the time to go through your report. If your report is very lazy one, then the reader may not have enough time to go through the report from the beginning to the end. Therefore, an executive summary is meant for readers like that, who will just go through it and they have a general idea about the whole report. So you are advised at this juncture that you should Give a brief summary of the contents of the whole report. Summarize the purpose of the report, the method of investigation you used, the major findings, the conclusion, and the recommendation that you arrived at. You are expected to summarize all this here under the heading executive summary. That will allow people to just have the general idea about the report even without reading everything in the report. Then number 4, you have introduction. This is where you have terms of reference. In this section, the reporter should clearly discuss all the necessary background information, aim and objectives of the report, as well as definition of all the abbreviations and the acronyms used in the report. This is where you provide a background information about the report. What triggers the conduct of the report? Why is the report conducted? What has informed the conduct of the report? What is the aim and objectives of the report? You are also expected to provide definitions of all the abbreviations and acronyms used in your report here in the introduction. The next piece of information in your report is methods of investigation. This is where you give a detailed description about the method that you use to gather the data for the report. If it is an interview that you conducted with the respondents, you need to explain how you conducted the interview here. If it is an observation technique that you applied, explain it here. If it is a focus group discussion, if it is a questionnaire, if it is key informant interview, whatever method of investigation that you use to collect data, even if it is a library research or desk if it is a library research or desk type of research, you need to explain it here at this junction. You are also expected to explain the limitations of the method as well as the problems you encountered when adopting the method. You have to explain it here, because sometimes when you come to conduct a research, you are expected to collect data from some people or from some places. There may be some limitations, some problems that you may have encountered during collection of data. You have to explain all these here. Then after collecting the data, then the next section is findings and the conclusion. This is where you analyze the data. You analyze the data to present your findings and conclusion on the report. Sometimes here you are expected to use diagrams, tables, graphs, pictures, and so on and so forth, so as to further buttress your argument, so as to further prove the points you are explaining. So in short, this section expects the writer to give detailed account of the analysis, the findings, and the conclusion that he or she arrives at after conducting the report. It is followed by conclusion. Then after giving the findings, the results, then you give the conclusion. It may be in form of highlighting the most important points of the report or showing the overall significance of the research. Yes, you can give a conclusion by either summarizing the most important parts of the report, you highlight them, or by showing the overall significance of the research. Why are you conducting the whole report in the first place? How significant you have found the procedure, the process, and so on. You explain it here. So this is where you analyze your data, talk about your findings, and later discuss the results and give conclusion. Then number 7, you have recommendation. This usually takes the form of a call to action. The recommendation given must be in line with the findings of the report. So based on the findings of the report, you may decide to give recommendation. Sometimes recommendations are optional, but in some reports they are necessary because they inform policy decision, and they come in form of a call to action. This is why you are calling the authority to take action or to take certain decisions about something. So you can give as many recommendations as possible. Then number 8, appendices or annexes. In this section, the reporter should include all the supporting documents and the information used which have not been included in the report. This may include questionnaires, transcripts, graphs, etc. Sometimes there may be some some documents that you have not actually used in the report, but they are supporting documents. They have supported you in compiling the report. Therefore, you can include them as appendices or annexes. Sometimes this may be some pictures that you have taken while you are conducting the report. Sometimes there may be questions that you distributed to your respondents, maybe questionnaires or interview transcript, or some graphs or some maps or some charts that may further elaborate and give more information about the report. You can put them as appendix or annexes. Then finally, bibliography or reference. In this section, a reporter should list in alphabetical order and by author all published sources referred to in the report. This is where all the published sources that you used in the report should be shortlisted in an alphabetical order and by author. They come in form of reference. Maybe while you are conducting the research, you have sourced for information online, you have visited the library, you have read some books, you have found out a lot of information. So all those that you have consulted while compiling the report should be adequately acknowledged in form of reference or bibliography, and you do that alphabetically and by author. Now, summary of the whole lecture. This lecture has discussed the meaning of its types and the language of report writing. So far we have discussed the meaning of report writing, its types, and the language of report writing. We have also discussed the format or procedure of report writing. We have discussed procedures such as the title page, then the table of content, then the executive summary, then the introduction or background to the study, then method of investigation, then findings and conclusion, then you have recommendations, then you have appendices or annexes, then finally you have bibliography or referencing. Like I have said earlier on, this format can be tentative and is just the usual one that is used by most report writers. Sometimes it may be different in some organizations. So in the next lecture, lecture 6, that will be the final lecture, we are going to discuss curriculum vitae, memorandum, and so on. Thank you very much for listening.